Hello everyone, welcome to Donington Park, and this is where the real deal starts, because for Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Copa and the penultimate round, Amanda, this is where free practices are done. It's all about qualifying. Of course, qualifying is critical to give you the perfect grid position. Not only that, there is a point awarded, of course, for pole position, so points make prizes.
They do indeed, and with the championship as tight as it is up at the front, with both Andrew Morrow and Gilbert Yates on neck and neck, 88 points, every point is going to matter. These two are so evenly matched. They've been trading places. Gilbert, though, in free practice 2, I believe put in the fastest lap of any Ferrari Challenge car here at Donington. So Gilbert is definitely going to be a man to watch.
Once again, you really have been doing your work, haven't you? Analysing the data and...
I wish I could take credit for that. I'm going to give credit where credit is due, and Adam told me that between sessions. So Adam, thank you very much for that.
Of course, Adam and Mark are two commentators across the course of the weekend who we will introduce you to shortly. Of course, it's also tight in Copa, isn't it? I think there's 11 points between Robert Rees and Mike, who's running in P2. So still everything to be won.
Absolutely. And Mike, of course, didn't get his full session in, had a small mechanical problem with a little bit too much camber on the front of his car. But anyway, that's now been sorted. So he missed out a little bit in free practice 2 as well. So another driver who's going to have to get a bit between his teeth and really put in the performance here at Donington. But I mean, from yesterday when we were all complaining about the heat, today the cloud is over. It's actually started to warm up quite a bit. And these temperatures and these track conditions really are ideal for drivers to get the most out of their cars. Absolutely, and as you say, with a bit of cloud cover around, you know, it's going to be really, really good, isn't it? So, very much looking forward to that. Now, just back to that Mike Dewhurst in free practice, as you say, he didn't get all the running in free practice 2. As a driver, does that put you on the back foot, Amanda, or does it make you think, oh my goodness me, yes, bit is between my teeth now, and make you even more determined? It's a little bit of both. I mean, on the one hand, you're really frustrated because you will have had a plan, you'd have made that with your driver coach before the session, about all the things that you wanted to try, all the particular parts of the track you needed to maybe work on. So all of that will now have gone out of the window, which is just really frustrating because, you know, the whole point of free practice is not necessarily going flat out as fast as you can around the whole track. It's about working on those niggly bits, really trying to nail the corners where you're not optimizing speed, to try and make the most out of it for this session now, when we actually, well, this is the real business end, isn't it? Because qualifying is really important. We've been looking at images of Andrew Morrow, of course, who in Trofeo Pirelli, as you said earlier on with Gilbert Yates, he's been trading places, as it were. I should make mention of the fact that Andrew Morrow, who's also racing in Ferrari Challenge in Europe, took his first win at Portimao in Portugal when we were there a couple of weeks ago. So he's got that effective monkey off his back, if you will, and of course that means that he will come here in a rich vein of confidence as we move out of the way of cars that are about to run us over. Don't worry, I've got you on the outside of me. Thanks. See, I'm good for something. I wouldn't let anything bad happen to you, not now that you are so smart as well. Thank you so much, Amanda. I'm still smarting at this. I think I might put an official complaint. Oh, really? But, you know, you've got your cab. I haven't. Yeah. So, right, here we go then. Cars beginning to come out of the garages, and Gilbert Yates is the first one to show and heads down towards the red light, Amanda. That's right, and this is a driver that means business. I mean, you know, these guys are really competitive. So to be the first person out there, of course, it means Gilbert is going to have a clear track ahead of him. So it's a real statement of intent from Gilbert and his team about what they hope to achieve in this session. I've just spotted a former Ferrari Challenge driver who's in the garage there, just eyeing up the Lucky Cura car. And Alex, it's great to see you. Listen, come and join us here, look, come on. Former Ferrari Challenge star who, regrettably, as you can see, is in his civvies today. What's it going to take to get you back out in one of these cars? Come on.
£500,000.
Okay. Oh, well. See Amanda, she's the person.
Yeah. No, it's on the edge for me. I stepped out of it for a while. I had to have a triple bypass. but I did the British Grand Prix last weekend in a Formula One car as a demonstration lap, so I think I'm ready to come back. So I'm just looking at it, and when you come back to this event and meet the people, it's the family again. It's just one big family, and it's so exciting, and people just want to help each other.
It is. It's a really lovely environment, isn't it? And I think that's really noticeable in this paddock versus other race series.
I think you're right, and I think the camaraderie between drivers is excellent, and you know your limits, you know how far you can push each other. You maybe touch and push a bit more, a bit hard with some of them, but you've got to be in it to win it. And you know, I had 2 seasons in this. For me, it was fantastic. The oldest man on the grid, 8 podiums. That'll do me.
I would say so as well. And of course, with the new car coming in, are you here this weekend to perhaps have a little
I've had a
look?
sniff round before, and I'm looking at this, and yeah, the boys are pushing me quite hard to see whether I'm going to go or not. And as soon as I walk out of here, I think I've got to do it. I've got to do it.
Brilliant.
That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like addictive. I'm going to talk to this beautiful lady, who I have to say I have a little bit of a relationship with her anyway. But Ali Mannering, wonderful that you're here in your Ferrari gear as well. And you're also here with an eye to next year and the new car.
Yes, very, very excited. The car looks amazing, so I'm going to be going out in it today. So it'll be my second trip out in it today, so I'm really looking forward to it. But this is my first time at this track, so yeah.
Now, you're in the very capable hands of Jamie Unwin, is he going to be driving you, or are you driving him?
I think we're going to do a bit of both. There will be lots of music involved. But yes, Jamie is, he's a very good driver, so I feel in very capable hands with him. So yes, I think he's going to take me around a few times, and then we're going to swap over.
We definitely need more women.
Yes.
Definitely. That's women power, exactly.
Says George. Says George, yes. Brilliant. George, great to see you as well. And, of course, you represent one of the dealers here as well. The dealers form such a part of the Ferrari Challenge, and the relationship the dealers have with the customers and the drivers as well. And at weekends like this, absolutely critical.
Look, he's not letting her go.
The warmth and the affection.
Thank you, guys.
Listen, it's enough from me and you, really, because I did mention earlier on, of course, and you mentioned Adam, who kindly gave you some information. And it's not only Adam Weller, but also Mark Werrell, who will be bringing us all the action during qualifying. Chaps, we apologise for waxing lyrical for as long as we have. Over to you.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Dave. So, Donington Park, penultimate round of the 2024 Ferrari Challenge UK. Will see rounds 7 and 8 get underway this weekend. So, cloudy skies over Donington Park, nice warm ambient temperatures, and for the moment, those rain clouds that were promised for later on this afternoon are nowhere to be seen. So, track temperature has risen since free practice 2. It's now 31 degrees, the track temperature. Air temperature is 21 degrees, and still just that light breeze that we have, not a great deal more than that. So, the car's beginning to head out for the start of qualifying. Gilbert Yates is the only taker so far. So, before we fully concentrate our efforts on the qualifying session, let's get an onboard lap and an insight into Donington Park. And who better to show us around a lap than the number 1 car, the reigning champion, the Charles Hurst car, in the hands of Andrew Morrow. So over the start-finish line, you're in 6th gear as you approach Redgate Corner. Get right the way out to the right-hand side, onto the brakes, down to 4th gear, apex, and make sure you take all of the curb on the exit as you head up towards the right-hand kink at Hollywood. Taken flat out as you head through the top section of the Craner curves. About 80% throttle you hold as you head through the left-hand kink of the Craners, down to the old hairpin. Hard brake, down to 5th. Watch the exit curb. Avoid running wide, and you head up to 6th gear on the sweep up towards Schwantz curve. Late turn into Schwantz. Get the car right the way over to the left-hand side so that it opens up McLean's. Down to 4th. Grab the apex. Use all of the exit curb to get a good drive up towards Coppice. Down to 4th. Stay over on the left-hand side. Keep the car settled. It's a blind apex for the first part. You're in the middle of the track for the second apex. Be careful on the exits that you don't run wide. up to 6th gear onto the straight, up to about 240 kilometres per hour, 150 miles per hour, heavy brake, down to 3rd for Roberts, avoid the sausage curb, avoid the tyre stacks, sacrifice the first right-hand aspect to get back on the throttle early for the second-hand aspect of it, and that is a 1.97 mile lap of the Donington Park National Circuit, which Adam Weller, who joins me in commentary, saw, as we saw earlier on and heard from earlier on, that fastest ever lap in a 488 Evo car from Gilbert Yates around here in free practice 2, a 1 minute 6.011. At the time I said, is that the fastest ever lap? Because I thought it might be. You take the credit for the research. I thought that would be the case. You researched it. Yes, it was.
It was indeed, and critically, he was the only driver to go sub 107 in free practice. What has he done already in the 6 minutes of this session so far? He's set another 106. A 106.833. Even now, at this early stage of the session, anyone who goes faster than Gilbert Yates is going to have to go quicker than they've gone all weekend so far.
Yep, but of course what they will have done is they'll be making sure they have got one of those 2 sets of brand new Pirelli tyres that are available to them. They will be bolting them on at some point during this qualifying session. It might not necessarily be at the very sharp end of it. It might be midway through. Just look at how much the nose dips as he heads onto the brakes through Redgate Corner. That was an even quicker lap from Gilbert Yates that time through. 1 minute 6.380 from him now is the provisional pole position time. And you'd be a hard man to bet against Gilbert Yates, because you look back at what happened at Alton Park, pole position for both races. You look back at what happened at Snetterton, pole position for both races. The only time he's not been on pole this year was the first 2 races at Brands Hatch when Tom Fleming was making a guest appearance in it. Other than that, Gilbert Yates has rather dominated qualifying.
He has, and I bumped into him after FP2. I told him the statistic as well. I felt that if we know, he should know that he's the fastest ever man in Ferrari Challenge UK around the Donington National Circuit. And I said to him, confirm or deny, you quite like this place, don't you? Gave me a wry smile and said, yeah, just a bit. He really likes Donington Park. And Andrew Morrow, the most recent race winner here, the most recent pole sitter here, is going to be keeping an eye on this in the garage right now.
Let's just have a quick look over the start-finish line. Comes Gilbert Yates, and again he was quicker that time through as well. Slightly slower through the middle part of the lap, but absolute best through the first and the third sectors. So now the provisional pole time is a 1 minute 6.317 from Gilbert Yates. So really going well. Peter Hunter, number 82, is out on circuit for Stratstone Manchester. We've got the number 19 car out on circuit, which is the Jardine Colchester car of Mandra Pillai, the Malaysian driver, and also Pranav Vangala is out on circuit. So here comes Peter Hunter. First flying lap for him about to be chalked into the book. Let's wait and see. It's a little bit off the pace of Gilbert Yates at the moment, and Hemandra Pillai has done sort of an out lap and has come back in, which does suggest what he might have done is bolted on a set of those new Pirelli slick tyres, scrubbed them in, and is going to utilise them later on in the session, Adam.
Yeah, Hemandra Pillai, the Malaysian racer who was in the process, I think, of getting rid of the old tyres carried over from last weekend in the free practice session. Interested to see where he ends up on the grid for this one. Actually got a chance to speak to his dad between free practice and qualifying. His father has come from Malaysia for the 3rd time this season to support his son in person. That is committed.
That's a bit of a commute, isn't it, for him? Yeah, so fantastic to see. So Gilbert Yates has done the first few laps that he wants to do in qualifying. He'll come into the pit lane and take a little bit of well-earned respite because, again, as is typical of Gilbert Yates, he didn't leave a great deal on the table out there. He was pushing hard and, as we say, has already dipped into the 1 minute 6s in both free practice 1 and in free practice 2. That lap time that he's done is about 2/10 off his best so far. Here comes Pete Hunter, number 82, back over the start-finish line, and he goes second quickest. But for Gilbert Yates, there'll be a little bit of download, no doubt. Aston Miller is his driver coach for this weekend. Aston, very young, but hugely successful driver in junior formula, and is now doing good things in GT racing generally. I think it's the first time Aston has probably worked with Gilbert over the course of this season. So conversations going on. And as ever, you might think, oh, that's the perfect lap, but as a racing driver and as a driver coach, there's always room for improvement.
Yes, I heard that from Mike Dewhurst earlier on in the day. He said, I've nailed so many of the corners around this circuit, but just not all on the same lap. And that's kind of the process you have to go through across the weekend. You mentioned Gilbert Yates, of course, working with Aston. At the first weekend at Brands Hatch, his driver coach was the only other pole sitter so far this year. Tom Fleming was doing his data as well as racing alongside him.
Yeah, we've seen Tom Fleming acting as driver coach on a couple of other occasions. A couple more cars exiting the pit lane, so that looks as though it's Gary Redman, the number 22 car, that is just heading round through Redgate Corner now, supported by Grey Paul Nottingham as the dealer. And the other car that came out is the JCT 600 car of Darren Howell, who rejoins Charles Rainford as his driver coach for this weekend. So next car through and over the start-finish line should be Pranav Vangala, the number 29 car. He's popped in one flying lap already, and that flying lap is an improvement, which sees him go second quickest with a 1 minute 9.063 for the number 29 car. So that's the HRO in back car in the hands of the man who lies third in the overall Trofeo Pirelli Championship standings. 69 points for both Andrew Morrow and Gilbert Yates in Trofeo Pirelli. Pranav Vangala is 10 points adrift of them on 59 championship points. And in Copa Shell, 88 points for Robert Rees, 11 points adrift of that is the car of Mike Dewhurst. His is the number 78 car, so those are the drivers to watch out for. Amandra Pillai, out lap, in lap once more. So that is another foray out onto the circuit, but he has not as yet really set what is a flying lap time.
Well, hopefully before long we get to see that car at full tilt and true potential. Same applies to Andrew Morrow in the number 1. We're yet to see that car roll. Never mind, here it comes, out of the garage now. The Charles Hurst machine, the Irish Ferrari dealership. Of course, with the Irish racer at the wheel. Andrew Morrow heading out onto the circuit then. Let's see if he can get himself into the 106s. If he wants to try and beat Yates, that's what he needs to do.
Yep, so it might just take a lap or two. It's quite a short lap at Donington Park, just less than 2 miles. Andrew Morrow just watching his mirrors, make sure he doesn't compromise the flying lap that Stephen Dobson was on, because as the cars feed out of the pit lane, they do feed out onto the racing line. Because it's such a short lap at Donington Park, these Pirelli tyres, fantastic tyre, but they don't go on preheated onto the cars. They go on cold, and therefore it takes the out lap and probably the first flying lap to build enough surface temperature into the tyre and build enough core temperature into the tyre as well. We can see Amandra Pillai's car just having a little bit of attention done to it in the pit lane area, so he'll be hoping he can head out onto the circuit and chalk some quick laps in. And the first of those that's chalked the quick lap in Copa Shell is Peter Hunter, number 82, followed by the man who leads the championship, the number 8 car in the hands of Robert Rees, charging his way down through the Craner curves. He, I think, will be one to watch out for in this session, because Robert Rees, both in free practice 1 and in free practice 2, the number 8 car was the fastest of the Copa Shell competitors.
He's the only driver so far this year across both categories to podium in every single race within his class. Hasn't finished lower than second so far this season, Robert Rees. He has been on a tear in what is his first full-time campaign in Ferrari Challenge UK after a part season in 2023, and really has been quite the standout participant so far this season. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, he's really come on well. He had a great weekend at Spa-Francorchamps for the back end of the 2023 championship season, and has been an absolute star in Copa Shell this year. The blue car dives onto the nose almost as he anchors up the brakes for the Robert chicane, and is about to flash his way over the start-finish line. He's dropped to 5th quickest, and as he goes over the start-finish line, he goes back to 4th quickest with an improved time of a 1 minute 11.773, but that's still about 1 3/4 seconds shy of pole in reality for Copa Shell. That is still being occupied by the number 82 car of Peter Hunter at the moment, so there's still a bit more work to be done. But usually, Adam, they do split this session into 2. They'll go out for the first part of the session on a set of used tyres, and then they'll bolt the brand new Pirelli slicks on at about the halfway point, which we are not that far away from coming up to now. It's a 30-minute session. We've got just under 16 minutes remaining.
I was alluding to it earlier on in the day during the free practice sessions. I thought perhaps the drivers would go out there early and set a fast lap to make sure the weather didn't turn against them, and then they'd end up with no fast laps. It is cloudy overhead, but it's not rainy overhead. I think Gilbert Yates very much set a bank lap earlier on with his 1 minute 6.317. I was talking about Robert Rees, I was talking about his form. I would be amiss if I didn't talk, though, about Mike Dewhurst in the same vein. 3 victories in a row. coming back up to full health as well during the season as well. And the fact that he now seems to be back at full capacity and has 3 wins in a row, Robert Rees, as good as his form has been so far, as good as his consistency has been so far this year, he will be taking notice of that 78 car that's ever closer to his shoulder.
Yeah, what was it? Alton Park, I think Mike Dewhurst had slow starts in both races and had to work his way back through the order, but stuck with it even though he's feeling under the weather, and yeah, came back with victory in the second of those two. So the yellow car with the blue and the red flashes just about to head over the start-finish line. Mike Dewhurst is 7th quickest at the moment, and as he goes through that time through, he goes to 4th quickest. The improved time from Mike Dewhurst, 1 minute 8.488. That moves him up to 2nd quickest in Copa Shell at the moment. The number 8 car of Robert Rees, his main championship rival, still occupies the Copa Shell provisional pole position at the moment with 14 minutes remaining. Gilbert Yates still resides in the pit lane. I think he's the only car in the pit lane at the moment, and it doesn't surprise me because he's still on provisional pole by 1.1 seconds. No need to go out there unless anybody's chipping away and getting close to your provisional pole time.
Well, the quickest ever lap prior to free practice 1 this morning in Ferrari Challenge UK was a 106.7 from this man, Andrew Morrow. So in the history of the series, no one has gone quicker than Gilbert Yates has gone in this qualifying, but this man, Andrew Morrow, will be working to change that statistic now. He's getting temperature into the car, into the tyres, and he'll be making a full tilt before long. Yeah, he was certainly quick with the number 1 car through the first sector, but still about 4 tenths down on the best we've had through that first sector. So Andrew Morrow is 6th quickest. He's just about to head up towards Coppice Corner now, that blind entry, double apex right-hander, so you commit the car to the first apex before you see it, and it's only once you've turned in you realise whether you've got it right or wrong. If you don't quite get the first apex right, it pushes you wide for the second apex. You need to be in the middle of the circuit anyway, but you're in danger of running wide on the way out if you don't quite get it right on the way in, so it's a tricky old corner. So here comes the number 1 car in the hands of the Irishman over the start-finish line. Andrew Morrow is about to flash his way through. Is he going to be 6th? No, he's moving up to 3rd with an improved time of a 1 minute 7.498 from him that time through. He's 74 thousandths of a second shy of getting himself provisionally onto the front row of the grid with 12.5 minutes still remaining. Good showing then from Andrew, and I suspect the best may be yet to come. Not quite a personal best though in Sector 1 on this lap. Looks like we might be getting ready to see a little bit more from Gilbert Yates. The fact that he let slip to me that a 5 was on, a 1 minute 5 was on at some point during free practice. If he knows that's on the table, I do wonder if he can resist trying.
Well, he needs to try and squeeze another 12 1,000ths of a second out of the car compared to what he did in free practice 2. That would then get him into the 1 minute 5 second bracket. That's how close it was. Up towards Redgate Corner goes the car that's currently 2nd quickest. That's the green HR Rowing car of Pranav Van Gala. He, I think, is done with his flying laps for the moment. Seems to be easing things off a little bit as he heads down through Hollywood and the Craner curves this time through. So he could be destined for the pits at the end of this lap to bolt on a brand new set of Pirellis and have another push. Other drivers that are out there and going well on this lap, well, the number 98 car is Lee Frost. You remember, if you were with us for free practice 1 and free practice 2, we had championship double crown champion Lucky Carer out at the wheel of his car. Well, it's Lee Frost now that takes over that car, but it has been renumbered. When it was out in the earlier free practice sessions, it was out as car number 24. Well, it's now running as 98, which is Lee Frost's regular number. He is going to qualify and race the car today because Lucky Carer's got some daughter's birthday party to go to this afternoon and this evening. So Lee Frost will do it today, and Lucky will be back tomorrow behind the wheel of that car. And Lee Frost, who has not driven a racing car for quite some time, has just gone 6th quickest. He was 9th. The improved time from Lee, 1 minute 8.456 as he makes his debut in Ferrari Challenge UK.
Really bedding himself in here, given he missed FP1, FP2. This is his first tilt at it in a competitive session, and to be already up there in 6th place tells you what you need to know about the experience of Lee Frost in GTs, in powerful saloons. He hasn't driven this car before, but he knows how to handle big power GT slick tyres.
Yeah, and he's going really well at the moment. Through McLean's Corner goes a largely black machine. They have Grey Paul Birmingham up towards Coppice Corner. Brake lights flash on. He's off the brakes before he even gets to the apex. Gets the car rotated in towards the corner. Picks up the throttle nice and neatly. Doesn't even need to use the exit curb on the way out. And he is quicker through the first sector than he's previously been. He's quicker through the second sector than he has previously been. Up towards the Robert chicane. Flick right, flick left, get on the power now, Sinurli. And are we going to see a further improved time from the number 98 car of Lee Frost as he goes through? Yes, and he now moves up to 5th quickest with a time of a 1:08.313. So good lap times, making a good impression is Lee Frost. 10 minutes to go. Still, there's time for further improvement should he wish.
I suspect it might be coming. As I understand it, it's been a little while since Lee has been in the cockpit of any race car, even though he has experience of GT racing previous. So this is very much a wake-up call back into the hot seat, and well, he's dove back in with aplomb already, up to 5th position, and as you say, there may be more to come. I wouldn't mind betting there is.
I would think so, yeah, as he blows the cobwebs away. I think it's been the best part of 2 years since he last raced. He's raced rear-engine sports cars, he's raced mid-engine sports cars, he's raced front-engine saloons in the past, but has largely the last 18 months or so been concentrating on his business and also supporting his son, who started racing as well. So he's back this weekend and making a good impression here. Onto the brakes again through the Roberts chicane. This time he was quicker through the first sector, but slightly slower through the middle part of the lap. Are we going to see a further improvement on the 1:08.313? The answer is no. He's about 4/10 away that time through, so a slightly slower lap from him. 9 minutes of the session to go. Fastest of all, Gilbert Yates still resides in the pit lane. Second quickest, number 29, Pranav Vangala in the pit lane. Back out on circuit is number 1, Andrew Morrow, to see what he might be able to do. And we ought to mention 4th quickest, because that is still the fastest of the Copa Shell cars at the moment. Number 22, Gary Redman, brilliant lap from him, 1:08.291. He continues to lead the Copa Shell charge.
Unless we forget, Redman had both pole positions last time out at Snetterton, so the run of pace on one lap continues for Redman as he returns to racing, gets to grips with the intensity of racing action once again. It seems as though that one lap speed is coming back to him quite quickly.
Yeah, because of course when he last raced in the series, it was 2019, and that was pre-Evo, wasn't it? It was original 488, but not the Evo.
Yes, 2021 was the first year of the Evo kit in the UK, 2020 elsewhere. Andrew Morrow into the pit lane then. He's back in for the first time, still 3rd fastest. For Pranav Vangala, that is a very good sign that he's up there on the front row for the time being. But I suspect this latter 5 minutes of the session, we are going to see some shuffling, be it Redman maybe being knocked off the second row, if not the Copa Shell pole under threat as well. I suspect that Andrew Morrow has a little bit more in the back pocket. I think there's going to be a lot of moving, shaking and shuffling in the next few moments.
Back out of the pit lane goes Darren Howell, so the number 5 car just threading its way out of Redgate corner onto an out lap at the moment. The number 19 pink car in the hands of Hemandra Pillai is still looking to see whether it might be able to improve. But again, the first third of this lap is not as quick as he has previously gone. He's just working his way out of Coppice corner, trying to get on the throttle as soon as possible. He's got a car ahead of him, which is Peter Hunter. Peter is also on a flying lap at the moment. In fact, that's Peter just flashing his way over the start-finish line, actually, now. So the car's ahead of him is Gary Redman, rather. So through comes Gary Redman, through comes Hemandra Pillai, and I don't think Hemandra's lap is going to be any quicker than he has previously gone. No, it is not. So leading overall, Gilbert Yates still waiting patiently in the pit lane. He leads Trofeo Pirelli, and 4th quickest overall, the fastest of the Copa Shell cars, still number 22, Gary Redman, who is just completing an out lap and heading on to a first flying lap, but more importantly, Adam, still trying to build those temperatures in the tyres.
Yeah, absolutely. You need those Pirelli P0s in the absolute optimum window to get the best lap possible. And that's what the drivers are working towards at the moment. And then, of course, once you've got them in that optimum window, the next challenge is to not go too far the other way. Too much temperature to start losing grip. They do have quite a wide operating window, but a couple too many crossed exits out of the Roberts chicane, for example, putting too much through the tyres, you might find the rear traction is starting to fade from you.
Keep an eye on the number 78 car of Mike Dewhurst on this lap, because he's just gone through the first sector quicker than he has previously gone. And remember, this is a driver who has taken 3 back-to-back wins in Copa Shell, but so far this season has not had a pole position in it. So Hemandra Pillai about to conclude the lap. The car not looking again as though it's going to post an improved lap time based on the sectors. No, 0.4 of a second slower than Hemandra has previously done. He still remains 5th quickest of all in Trofeo Pirelli. That puts him 10th quickest in total in this qualifying session with 5 minutes remaining. So we'll have to wait and see as to whether he can try and muster a bit more out of it. Up towards Redgate corner already goes Mike Dewhurst. Whilst his first sector was quicker than he'd previously gone, he didn't knit the next two together, so there was no improved time for Mike Dewhurst. He was just a whisker away, and we're only talking 80 thousandths of a second shy of improvement, but it's the wrong side of improvement for Mike Dewhurst. 5 minutes of the session still remain. Are we going to see the likes of Gilbert Yates, Pranav Bangala and Andrew Morrow head back out onto the circuit? Because they're the top three. They all reside in the pit lane at the moment.
They do at the moment, though. Lee Frost is on an out lap, so let's see if he has anything more to give to maybe try and get onto that second row for his inaugural start in Ferrari Challenge UK. 98 car comes across the line now. To my eye, didn't look like full tilt down the main straight, but I've been wrong about that kind of thing a few times before. He's got 4.5 minutes left to try and set a flyer. That effectively means he's got 4 more laps to try and put a quick one in to go top 4, currently sitting 5th in the standings.
The championship leader in Copa Shell, which is the number 8 car in the hands of Robert Rees, is on a quick lap at the moment. Slightly slower, though, rather frustratingly as far as he's concerned, through the first sector of it. It looks neat and tidy through the second sector, but I think he might possibly look at what the Delta says heading up towards the Robert chicane, and if it's not quite coming together, then he may well ease things off and try and get a good exit coming out of the Robert chicane to build the speeds for the next one. It looks as though Peter Hunter is done with qualifying. He's out of the car. Off comes the Balaclava. Benny Simonson, his driver coach, busy chatting to him already. So Robert Rees, yes, he's backed things off coming in towards the end of the lap, and he's going to head towards the pit lane, so it didn't quite come together for Robert Rees. 3.5 minutes of the session to go. It does make you wonder as to whether there's time to see what they could do and get that car back out there. It's a fairly short lap at Donington Park, so as long as he gets back out of the pit lane with, what, 1 minute and 30 to go, he should get the out lap in and start the flying lap before the clock's at 0. So they haven't got long to sort that out if that's what they want to do.
I do feel like for the most part we've been seeing 2 warm-up laps coming out onto the circuit, though, so it would need to be a pretty heroic turnaround from the crew. We'll wait and see. The number 5 car then, Duncan Howell, heading down the back straight towards the Robert chicane, deep onto the brakes. I love watching these challenge cars under braking. You can really see the movement, almost every oscillation of the pedal. Howell across the line, still no improvements. I just wonder if the track conditions are turning away from them a little bit across this half hour, because it does seem as though the best of the session has largely come and gone, with the notable exception of the 74 of Dobson, who's just gone fastest in the first sector, his personal best in the first sector.
Yep, so most of the cars, certainly the top 4, all sitting in the pit lane as things currently stand. Gilbert Yates, Pranav Bangala, Andrew Morrow and Gary Redman. Over the start-finish line comes Lee Frost. He's still 5th quickest. That lap time was a 1 minute 9.089, so that's about 7/10, 3/4 of a second down on his previous best in the session. Using all of the curbs but no more on the exit of Redgate corner. Builds the speed again through Hollywood, flat out through that section. Slight lift as you head down in towards the crane of curves. You get that compression at the bottom as well, which really, as a driver, makes you feel the lateral G-force, but also the G-force that pushes you down into the bottom of the seat. Stephen Dobson over the start-finish line does improve, actually. So the number 74 car of Stephen Dobson going well. He is 4th quickest in Copa Shell. He is 8th quickest overall, and he's just improved with a 1 minute 8.562 for the Dick Lovett Swindon car. So he is going well, and I think he's backed it off on this lap down through the crane of curves, and I think unintentionally maybe just compromised the lap that Hemandra Pillai was on.
Be disappointing for Pillai, who needs the fast laps in. Won't get it on this occasion. For Dobson, that's a fast... Oh, goodness me, Mike Dewhurst getting caught out there as well by Dobson. Very well held.
Very well held, yeah. I think Mike Dobson, again, Stephen Dobson, not quite aware of another car being behind him, and again, inadvertently making the wrong decision was Mike Dewhurst, as to try and squeeze his way by, and then realised that the amount of tarmac was running out, so had to get back off the gas as the car squirreled around on the grass on the exit of the old hairpin, and that has undone the lap rather that he was looking to do. But he's still got time to get over the start-finish line and get another flying lap in, should he wish. However, he does have a car ahead of him, which is going to be the number 5 car from JCT 600 Leeds in the hands of Darren Howell. So those two will, not together, but pretty much in a similar-ish piece of tarmac, work their way out of the Robert chicane. Mike Dewhurst dives to the pit lane in the end, so will not continue with the lap. which means that Darren Howell heads over the start-finish line and gets through with about, what, 25 seconds still to go. So he is now onto his final flying lap, looking to try and improve on what is 9th position overall, 5th position in Coperchel as he heads down through the Craner Curves.
Of course, he started his year on something of a high, really. His first ever Ferrari Challenge UK appearance resulted in a 2nd place finish. He hasn't got to those heady heights again yet this year.
No, it was pole, wasn't it? And,
yes,
and the 2nd place
indeed.
finish, yeah.
Yes, so a very good start to his tenure in Ferrari Challenge UK. Has a lot of family around the garage as well. He'll be looking to impress them.
Yeah, I was chatting to him earlier on, and he did say, you know, it's been a tough year for him. There's been a few issues generally that he's had to deal with on every single race weekend. But, as he said, character building year. He can't wait to come back for the 2025 edition of Ferrari Challenge UK, and as so many drivers always allude to, rejoin the family. Hamandra Pillai through and over the start-finish line, a number 19 car taking the checkered flag. Gilbert Yates looks on from the pit lane area. He did all of his hard work in the early part of the session, didn't he, Gilbert Yates? And now that is 5 back-to-back pole positions for Gilbert Yates in Ferrari Challenge UK. He will be hugely pleased with that. The end of the lap, Darren Howell heads in towards the pit lane, and I think that now means that we have got everybody into the pits.
And not only is that pole position, but that's the championship lead now for Gilbert Yates. They came in on 69 apiece. They both get a point for being on the entry list, so that brings them up to 70. Now that pole position point makes it 71 Yates, 70 for our reigning champ Andrew Morrow. He
has the fastest lap point available come the race later on today. It's 15 points for a win, 12 for second, 10 for third, and so on. It diminishes down to 1 single point for 8th place, and that's in each of the classes. That's both for Trofeo Pirelli and for Coperchel. So Darren Howell out of his car, fantastic livery on his helmet which matches the coloration of his car, and he's one of those drivers that opts for the open-faced helmet but has the microphone coming across in front of his mouth so that he can talk to his driver coach and engineer if needs be, receiving the congratulations of one, as Adam suggested, one of the many family members that's there. And straight away, as ever, driver coach Charles Rainford on hand. He's a busy driver as well, racing in other GT categories. So in towards the pit lane comes Hamandra Pillai, and I think that is pretty much everybody off circuit now. So that, subject to official confirmation, will pretty much set the grid as well, won't it, for our race later on. I'm not aware that there's any real transgressions that need to be looked at, and therefore the grid is pretty much set in stone for the way that they're going to line up for the 7th race of the championship season, round 4. Here at Donington Park, the 5th and final weekend of racing will take place at Silverstone. Now, Hamandra Pillai might be a little bit disappointed, really, with what is 10th position on the grid, 5th of the Trofeo Pirelli competitors. So, with all of the drivers out of the cars, let's just confirm the results then for qualifying for round 4 of the Trofeo Pirelli, the Ferrari Challenge here at Donington Park. Gilbert Yates makes it 5 pole positions on the bounce, and Pranav Van Gala was going to line up alongside him on the front row of the grid come the race later on. Andrew Morrow is 3rd quickest, with Gary Redmond, the first of the Coperchel cars, 4th quickest. 5th quickest is Lee Frost, who is making his debut in the championship. Robert Rees will line up 6th as the second of the Coperchel cars, and it's Mike Dewhurst, his main championship rival, that's 7th, ahead of Steve Dobson, who's there in 8th place. Darren Howell is 9th. Hamandra Pillai completes the top 10, and Peter Hunter will line up at the tail end of the field come the race later on today. So that gives you the results. Let's go down to the pit lane. I think Dave has managed to catch up with the pole sitter, Gilbert Yates.
Thank you very much, Mark. So here we are then. Gilbert Yates about to be presented with the Rotiform Pole Position Award. Now, of course, really celebrations, because not only do you get that fine award, Gilbert, not only do you get P1 on the grid, an additional point, which means you now lead the championship. Yeah. It's been a good day's work so far.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to lead the championship 1 point, but I'm not thinking too much about that at this stage. But it is good.
And Amanda?
Now, yes, I was about to say, you've been dominant. I mean, free practice too, you were absolutely flying, and obviously making a statement of intent going out first for qualifying. What are you doing around Donington that is different to everybody else? How are you getting so much out the car?
Maybe I'm just driving faster. I don't know. I mean, I like Donington. Donington's one of my favourite tracks, and I did want to go out early. I wanted to go out first, do my laps, come in, save the tyres. That was the point.
Well, listen, congratulations. Very dominant performance. Well done. We're looking forward to seeing what happens in the race now. Mark, back to you.
Thank you very much. Yep, so good to catch up with Gilbert Yates, and there was some brilliant action in that qualifying session. If you're watching the stream, I think we just see some slow-mos of some of our drivers. Third quickest in Copa Shell was Mike Dewhurst, the number 78 car, out there pushing hard in qualifying. He will line up behind his main championship rival, Robert Rees, who at the wheel of the number 8 car was second quickest in Copa Shell. And he will hope that he can try and scoop up another win. But for Gary Redman, it's another pole position for the number 22 car in Copa Shell. He'll be hoping that he can convert that to a race win. Remember, the Copa Shell cars have the yellow windscreen headers. In Trofeo Pirelli, the reigning champion, Andrew Morrow, third quickest at the end of the qualifying session. Pranav Van Gala is the man who is going to line up on the outside of the front row of the grid. He was second quickest in the qualifying session, and the front row of the grid, pole position 5 on the bounce. We've just heard from him. It's going to be the number 11 car of Gilbert Yates that will line up on pole. Back down to Dave in the pit lane.
Thank you so much, Mark. Well, here with Gary Redman, who nailed it in Copa Shell. Let's present the Rotiform Pole Position Award. Now, the great thing about this, Gary, is not only do you get in-class pole position, you get that fine award, of course, you get an additional point as well. You've nailed it here today.
Yeah, no, I'm really pleased. I was up against Robert, who was quicker in practice, and yeah, it was close, but yeah, I'm really pleased.
Good, well done you.
And you talk about being close with Robert. Robert has, of course, been really dominant, hasn't he, in the Copa Shell part of the challenge. This is now going to be closing up that gap.
Hope so. I mean, I got 2 poles in Snetterton. I just got to turn it into race pace now. That's the big challenge.
Can you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's it then. So I was right.
Absolutely.
You know the score, Gary. Amanda is always right. So let's see how he does when it comes to the race. Well done, Gary Redman. Then Copa Shell pole position. And back to you up in the Tower of Power, Mark Werrell.
Thanks a lot, Dave. It does make me giggle when you say that. So some highlights of qualifying. Gilbert Yates was very early out into the qualifying session and largely had the vast majority of the Donington Park National Circuit to himself. He popped in his first flying lap. That was a quick one. He went quicker on his second flying lap and even quicker on his third flying lap. Peter Hunter set the early pace in a Copa Shell, and also Pranav Van Gala at the wheel of the HRO in car had a really good qualifying session. He was compromised briefly on one of his laps by Mike Dewhurst, but that was largely because he met the car at the wrong place as they were heading through the Roberts chicane. Robert Rees, the championship leader in Copa Shell, was looking to try and make it an early pole position from him, but he didn't quite have the pace. And also Lee Frost at the wheel of the number 98 car for Grey Paul Birmingham, making his debut in the championship, was mounting a challenge to see whether he could haul himself inside the top half dozen in qualifying. He did. He will line up 5th place on Come the Race later on. Difficult qualifying session for the number 19 car of Jardine Colchester for Hamandra Pillai. There was a late charge by Mike Dewhurst to see if he could scoop up a pole position, but he was compromised on his final flying lap. Had a bit of a moment down at the old hairpin. No damage. He will be able to line up, but that will be 3rd in Copa Shell and 7th quickest overall. So that's it for qualifying for Ferrari Challenge UK. We've got the race to look forward to, which is scheduled to go live at around about 15:30. So our stream, if you're watching that, of course, we'll be introducing it a few minutes before that. So from Amanda, from Dave, from Adam, from myself, Mark Werrell, thanks for joining us for qualifying. We'll catch you later on today for the race. Goodbye.